Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. So this video is everything that you need to and should know about the Diana Trailscout. Now, my particular one is the Canadian version, so it's under 500 feet per second rating on this gun, and also 177 cal. They also have this in a 22 cal, which I'd like to get as well. I love 22 caliber guns. And the 177s actually aren't too bad. I do have a few 177 guns. And I really like this one. I'm like, wow. Okay, so if you've been following my channel about this gun, you'll know we've obviously come across a few things like going through a bazillion pellets, and you know, it came down to Crossman destroyers that made like a nickel-sized group basically in the lower corner. And I was using open sights at the time. And anyways, so everything on the gun is actually metal, except for, of course, the stock is plastic, and of course the igniter handle. This handle needs to actually be down when you're threading in the cap, because when you're done threading the cap in so it's flush to the tube, then you lift it up and that ignites all three bottles at once. So this does not have a hammer piercing system. It just, all three bottles just all at once. And it's a bulk fill system, of course, right? And anyhow, so I've been doing more shooting, obviously. I did a full accuracy testing video with this thing, and I got the Hades pellets to run dead on this gun. And of course, the Predator polymags are second in line, and then of course your Ultra Shocks by JSB will also work really well on this particular gun. Now, even though this is my gun, you go out and you buy this in 177, trying out the same pellets, you may or may not get the same results, right? No two guns are precisely alike, right? So this is the way it goes, all right? It's just the science of it all. Now, the rear sight's going to have to be removed when you go to put a scope on. I have high riser mounts on this with a little bit of an extension from my Picatinny to dovetail adapters in order to use these particular mounts and this scope on the gun. This is a 40 millimeter optical on this. So this is a 3x12 by 40 with adjustable AOE optical, right? 36 colors of illumination if you want to use the illumination part, locking turrets, etc. It's the Leapers Varmint Hunter scope. It's about 170 bucks new for the scope. And this one I pulled off. I have two of these scopes, and this one I pulled off my Crossman F11 because I don't shoot it a lot as it is, but I am going to have to eventually get another scope exactly like this to replace with. And of course, better mounts for, you know, not having to use the adapter. Because right now, I mean, I could flip the mounts, but then I got to resight in the gun. But I'd rather not go through that. So I'll just get a new scope. It comes with these mounts anyways that are Picatinny. So I'll just order in some like BKL high risers or something. And then, of course, make sure that my grip screws are on the other side. Because this has the cocking handle on the right-hand side of the gun, which is where I like it. Okay. Now, with the gun, this is a magnetic tray system. So you can haul out the loader and throw in the 9-shot rotary mag that comes with this gun. I did try the mag out today, actually. It works really good. I only had one jam, but otherwise it does work really good, so I'm fine with that. You will get the odd jam on anything rotary anyways for these things. And replacement mags are like 22 bucks in Canada. Now this gun sells in Canada at one of three places that I'm aware of, one of which is dlairgun.com. The other one is airgunsource.ca. And of course, locally in town to Powassan, which is about a 8-kilometer drive for me, because I'm in the back 40 of the country, and I prefer it out here. Brushies, okay? He carries these, and that's where I got this one. He also has the Storm Rider, the Chasers, and of course right now he's sold out of air guns. Air guns are going like crazy, but he is getting more in stock, don't you worry. Now, the gun is actually not very heavy. It's fairly lightweight, so even for youngsters to be able to shoot this thing, not a big deal, okay? It uses 3 CO2 bottles, so that's about 36 grams worth of CO2 that gets bulk filled into the tube once you run the igniter handle. And you're going to get I would say for good shots and good strong shots, about 160 shots almost out of this thing before it even starts to think about dwindling too far. At 100 shots, you're still right up there in the high 400s. Getting closer to about 130, 140 shots, this thing drops down to about 405. Okay, it is amazing the shot count you get, and the spread from shot to shot, even from the beginning, and for a whack load of shots, it's only plus or minus a couple of FPS. Okay, like not every single pellet is precisely the same weight. Now, the pellet of choice for the deadliest accuracy out of this gun, it has chosen the JSB Hades 10.34 grain pellets. It also will dial in the Ultra Shocks without any problem, same weight, as well as the 8 grain Predator Polymag pellets. Now, the Polymags, of course, will run much faster because they're only 8 grain as opposed to, 10.34. The 10.43 grain Hades and the Ultra Shocks put this gun at 460 feet per second across the chronograph. And that gives us 4.86 foot-pounds of energy. So if you are thinking about pest control, some small game, I don't know how much of the small game, but I would say chipmunks, squirrels, gophers, rabbits, shouldn't be any problem for this gun right out to like 13 yards easily. Okay, you shouldn't have any problem. You do have to have the correct shot placement, of course, for anything, and the right ammunition. Now, the best ammunition, of course, for doing this sort of stuff with, even including for your pests, is going to be the Predator Polymags, in my opinion, though the Hades do a wonderful job as well. They are a great pellet. Very pleased with them. Now, the Hades are, you get 500 rounds for about 20... Let me just bring this up and I'll tell you exactly. I'm going to definitely be buying more Hades pellets, that's for sure. The Hades are $22.95, 10.34 grain, like I said, for $22.95. If you're looking at the Predator Polymags, they're about $16 for 200 rounds. And the Ultra Shocks, I just got to find them on here, $18 for 350 rounds. Now, my Stoeger A30 loves the Ultra Shocks, okay? And it doesn't really care a whole lot for the Hades, but it definitely loves the Ultra Shocks. So I need to stock up on Ultra Shocks and Hades for sure, for those two guns. Anyways, does have an extended caulking handle on it. Now you'll hear there's a video where a guy says, like he bent the caulking handle and broke, right? Now, I think that's probably because he's too rough and trying to rapid recock. That can definitely do that if you're too rough with your gun. I actually prefer to put my thumb at the back here and then put my finger up close and then rest this finger on the front and then cock the gun, okay? Now, because this is in my way right now, okay, I actually have to hold my thumb at the back, get my finger up close like this, and then I can actually get it like so. I gotta actually, my finger has to go under a little bit. So, up close and personal, it's not a big deal as far as cocking this thing goes. It'll work for you just fine. That would take it easier. And especially if you're being rougher with the caulking, the extended handle, yeah, I could see that bending over time and probably breaking. So Diana might have wanted to put a little bit shorter handle, but they didn't. And they've done this even with the Storm Rider and the Chaser. Same handle, same bolt, right? But for me, I always cock it like this anyways. I just prefer it. I will never have to worry about this thing bending on me. Okay, so that would be a piece of advice for cocking the gun. Keep your finger as close to the breech as possible. And like I said, cock it that way. You can do that. You can just fold your finger like this and just like that. Now, when I get the new scope for this gun, I'm going to get the exact same scope, but with proper dovetail mounts. These are Picatinny with a Picatinny dovetail adapter under each one. And hey, it works, but these are in my way. I could flip them, but I don't really feel like it. I'll just buy a whole new scope, and I'm buying new mounts anyway, so what the heck. Trigger. There's a little bit of space on the trigger here, and it stops. This is a very hairy trigger, even from the factory. It's a very sensitive trigger, so keep that in mind. It is sensitive. Nice and wide, though, which is nice. And fully adjustable, so if you find that the trigger pull is actually too light for you, you can actually make it a little heavier by adjusting the screws. Read the manual on how to do that. Okay? Trigger guard is also metal on this thing, too, which is quite nice. Cross block safety is actually right where it belongs on a gun, generally. The Chaser has it right on the trigger, and I actually like that on the Chaser. But this gun, it's on this side. Anyways, I had accuracy issues, as some of you know. I couldn't get nothing to dial in on this thing. Like, I got about probably 13 or 16 types of 177 pellets, different weights too, and nada. Down to the destroyers, they made like about a nickel-sized group, and figured, well, that's got some potential there. Still not perfect though. But that was with open sights. Even with the scope, it would have probably given me the same problem, and I'll tell you why. I found out that these grub screws were loose, so the barrel was actually chattering in there. You could physically wiggle the barrel enough that it moves. So that's why the shots were going up, down, left, and right on every pellet. It's like, pellet fussy is one thing, okay, but this is ridiculous. So when I went to put the scope on last night, that's when I noticed, and that explained all the chattering. That explained why I'm going all over the place and couldn't get nothing to sight in. Because even the Hades was absolutely useless, right? Because the barrel would, go move up or down or left or right because the barrel band wasn't tight. I mean, you could literally push this barrel band within the allowable space that's there, back and forth. It was that loose. So I tightened up the grub screws nice and snug. Don't over tighten these things. You'll bugger them up. Okay, so just till they're nice and snug, each one, go back and forth until they're both really nice and snug. And then that's it. Your barrel is nice and tight, and you're going to have great barrel alignment. And from here to the front, it's not that much weight. Okay, so it's not going to vibrate on you, and you're going to be able to dial in some pellets without any issue. So even the guy that has the 22 cal version of this on YouTube, he went through about, I think, 16 or 18 different types of pellets. You can check out his video. And he had one pellet that actually dialed in extremely well. Still not perfect, but for his purpose, it works. Okay, he could get a lot better, I'm sure, by just tightening up that barrel band, because that barrel band is a big issue. Now, I do want the 22 cal version of this thing. So anyways, if you do buy the gun, definitely check out the screws. Make sure they are very tight. Now, there's only one real huge side effect to this gun. All right, and that is the cap. Okay, there's an O-ring on the cap, and it's a black O-ring. Black O-rings do not belong on that cap. It's one thing to put a black O-ring in by the valve or something. They expand. They never do reshrink the same anyways, but they'll at least hold the gas. You won't have any problems. It's pretty compressed area in here at all times. When you go to unthread this cap after you've exhausted all the gas out of this gun, you're going to find that the O-ring will start bubbling itself out. Okay? And it's going to be about probably 2 to 3 times its normal size. It is not going to reshrink. Now, they do give you some extra black O-rings for the cap with the gun in the box, among a whack load of other O-rings for Lord knows what, other than I know for sure one of them's for the breech inlet on the barrel. I'm going to recommend ordering yourself, go onto Amazon and order yourself refrigerant automotive O-rings for air conditioning. These things are good to minus 45 Celsius to plus 160 Celsius. That should be a fix, no problem. Now, I did order a box. You get like 270 different O-rings, so you get a whack load of each size. Okay, so you will find the proper size for this. And that's going to be your fix for this cap. Otherwise, you're going to be buying dozens and dozens of black O-rings, And every time you change the bottles, you're going to have to change that O-ring, because like I said, it will not re-shrink. It's been over 24 hours now, and my first O-ring still hasn't re-shrunken to where it should be. So I don't know why Diana did not use a CO2 grade O-ring in here, but that is something that needs to be fixed. I will actually be emailing them about that and crabbing them out about it to get that problem fixed, which means they're going to have to send out a pile of upgrade seals. Anyways, that's their bad. Okay. Anyways, other than that, the gun is actually deadly accurate, and the Hades pellets work awesome. Like I said, the other pellets, the Predators are good, the Ultra Shocks are going to be good. The Destroyers were now no longer even group. They're like ding, 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 made a pyramid. You can check out my full accuracy video on the gun. I went through 5 or 6 different types of pellets, different weights too. And we found out which ones were the great candidates and which ones actually suck. Anyways, so it's not going to cost you a bazillion bucks on ammo to get your gun to dial in. You do have to make sure the first thing you check is these grub screws are tight. Okay, that will stop barrel vibration, which will give you your better chance at sighting this thing in properly. Because only 3/4 of an inch of the barrel actually sits in the breech. And if this is sloppy, it's going to go left, right, up, and down as you shoot the gun, right? So that kind of makes sense that it would do that. I think, though, the one thing I would like to see changed on this gun for even better support would be to have the barrel band moved closer to the front of the stock, because that's going to give better support between here and with no flex. Okay, there is a guy that actually did a fix on a video I saw, and I think it was probably the Storm Rider. I don't think it was this one. It was one of them, and he found a way to get a barrel band up in this area to steady it. So he has one here, and of course your breech is your main inlet, and that actually worked superior for accuracy. All I did was tighten these grub screws, and now I have superior accuracy. But I myself would still like to have a band of some sort up front just to keep it even more locked in and solid. But we'll see. If I can get a machine shop up and running again, I will definitely be making my own, that's for sure. So I have made them actually by hand before. So, what else have we got? Great gas usage, 3 bottles gas. Definitely recommend putting a scope on this gun, especially if you're going to do pest control and small game, but even with target practice, there's nothing like a cool, mean scope, and this scope does look quite mean on this gun. Now, stock. Yes, stock is not an ambidextrous stock per se, but it kind of is. You have a cheek piece thing on the left side, so if you're a right-handed shooter, you know, you might find a cheek piece useful. Although where my cheek actually sits anyways to even get into my scope, I'm not even on here. But when I'm shooting like this, of course, now I am. I'm a left-handed shooter, and everything is where I need it to be. I don't care too much about cheek pieces on stocks. I don't even think they should have them. They're useless in my opinion. But whether you're holding the gun left-handed or whether you're holding it right-handed, you have this same groove here on both sides. Okay? And this one has a little bit more length to it, but you wouldn't really notice it for holding the gun. You actually don't notice it. And your hand cups in no matter which way you go. It cups in just fine and comfy. So left or right-handed shooters, don't worry about the cheek piece deal. It's not even an issue. Okay? Bipod mounting. Yes, this is going to get a bipod put on it. It's nice thick too. At least it looks that way. We'll see when we take it apart. But I am definitely going to be installing a bipod on this gun. I like it. I think it's worth the 250 Canadian that they ask for it as well. You know, I mean, this isn't a review by any means. I do have a review on this gun, but this is also everything that you need and should know. So you could consider this kind of an update review at the same time on the gun. But otherwise, yeah, it is a very nice gun, very nice shooter, deadly accurate. Like I said, it would definitely work for a lot of your pest control and some of your small game for sure, and definitely birds. Now I don't know what distance you'd be able to take birds at, and of course your partridge, right? You'd be able to do that with this gun. I don't see why not. But I would use an appropriate pellet for it. You need to get the energy there at the same time. And I'm going to give you one last example of speed and energy. Now this gun actually runs a really steady 497, okay, with a 7.4 grain pellet. Now at a 10.34 at 460 with the Hades, okay, so 460 feet per second, the gun is 4.86 foot-pounds, or 6.59 joules. Okay, now with a 7.4 grain pellet, regardless of the style of the pellet, at 497 is 4.06 foot-pounds. A little bit less, but should still probably do the trick for you because you're closer to that 500 mark, right? And the closer you can get to 500, the better it is for your energy, especially with a lighter pellet. Now, if you went with an 8 grain pellet, that actually would knock this thing back to about 490 pretty easily. With an 8 grain Predator, you're looking at 4.27 foot-pounds of energy, 490 FPS with an 8 grain Predator pellet. So that's actually moving you up a little bit in energy, which helps. You need energy with speed in order to dispatch. Okay, but even for some of the target shooting you might do, I wouldn't suggest running like really expensive ammo through the gun unless you can afford to and you want to. Then that's fine, because you do want maximum authority when you're knocking down targets, you know, whatever they happen to be, type of thing. So the Hades would actually, even though they're a hunting pellet, you do get 500 of them for $22, but you got to consider the cost of the pellets. And so try and find some pellets that'll work for your plinking purposes and pellets that will work for any pest or hunting purposes that you wanted to do in 177. And I normally would never recommend a non-POW or under 500 feet per second 177 cal gun, but in this case I'm going to, only because of how close it is to the speed. Your shot consistency is it's nuts how consistent this thing is for even 100 shots. Okay, it's just crazy, and the shot count you get out of this thing, it's definitely saving you a lot of money when you really think about it in the end results. And do check out the 22 cal version of the gun as well. Now for the Canadian market, because you'll notice there's no silencer suppressor on this gun. We're not allowed to have them in Canada. I don't know why, but they put on a metal screw-on cap to go over top of that. And so if you wanted to get a muzzle brake that's threaded on, or you can find yourself a legal version of some kind of a moderator in Canada that would match those threads, then you could get a thread-on style and make the gun look even meaner. When I can get my hands on a lathe, I'm going to make threaded versions for these guns. It'll actually cover the Storm Rider, the Chaser, and this gun as well, because they're all the exact same thread systems on all the barrels. So, you know, one muzzle brake does them all, type of thing. Anyway, so that's what we have for that. If there's something I may have missed, or you have a question because I may have missed something that you want to know about, do feel free to ask in the comments below, and I will definitely do the very best I can to answer your question on that. And before I go, yes, I did try out the multi-shot loader with only one jam up. Not a big deal. So that actually works pretty good too. So I might actually get a couple extra loaders just to have them, you know, and you know, preload them with a bunch of pellets, and away you go. You're good for shooting for a while. Anyway, that's pretty much where we're at with this. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.